Hey everyone, Dave from BC Bushcraft. I'm just at my base camp today and I'm here with Molly. I got a few hours to kill. So for today's video, I'm going to show you how you can make a fire basically without processing wood. Not using an axe, not using a saw, just using your hands and your knife and a ferro rod. It did rain quite a bit yesterday, so the forest is damp like usual. I got some pooling on my tarp that you can see right here. So the forest isn't totally dry, but it's a nice sunny day. And I feel like I could find some dry stuff to get a fire going without actually having to use my axe, use my saw, and process up any wood. You have to pretty much go from tinder to like lead size, little thin sticks to basically pencil size to maybe thumb size, and then you can go to your forearm, right? And I'm basically going to show you how you can get your fire going, establish a fire, and have like a pretty half decent fire without having to take the axe out, without having to take a saw out, and just using your hands and a knife. So first we need to find some tinder. We need to find something that the ferro rod, that will take a ferro rod spark. There's western red cedar trees around here, and that's always a go-to. You can use the bark off of the western red cedar, but let's see if we can find maybe some dry moss hanging around. That also takes a spark from a ferro rod and should flame up. So on this maple tree, there's some moss kind of hanging off of it. You can see it's kind of browned, and it feels fairly dry, but it is a little bit damp in areas. That might be some of it is, this part is dry, the rest of it isn't. The rest of it is quite wet. So I need to find more than this. This is definitely not enough. You might be able to get a flame, but to create more of a fire, you need more than this. So we'll go look around and see if I can collect more moss off of some hanging trees, or like finding some dry areas too. Okay, so I got a reasonable collection of old man's beard. I don't know if it's called old man's beard or gray man's beard. I can't really remember, but this type of moss, it's quite dry. And then I have some other moss that's green-ish, but it's dry. And there's some brown moss in there. So I feel like I should be able to get a flame with this. It might require some a little bit of effort with blowing on it and stuff like that. So now we need to find some pencil lead size, really thin branches. A good bundle of it to go on top of this. Look for just dead limbs on trees. Maybe some limbs that are standing up that have been on the ground, but the twigs have been standing up for a while and have a chance to dry out. So here's a fallen over branch that is sticking up in the air, and the sun's been hitting it. So I feel like these twigs are going to be quite useful. This is definitely some sort of conifer tree. It's probably Douglas fir, most likely. So all these tiny spider. I'm looking for the smallest possible, can break fairly easily pieces. So that's the rough size that I'm looking for right now. This other stick here is a little bit too big. This will be part of the second bundle that we collect. And there's another part sticking up over here that has the sun hitting it. So I'll collect this stuff too. Here's a few dried twigs off of this is a live tree, but these small twigs are totally bone dry and they are off the ground, so that's a good find too. This Douglas fir over here has some half decent fuel pieces. I mean, some of it's slightly rotten. That's a bit rotten. That's a bit rotten. You hear that snap? That means that's a good piece of wood. So this one's a good fuel piece. So on this down tree here, you have all these branches that are kind of sticking up, and there's quite a few fuel pieces. I think that I can find, you know, the bigger kind of forearm thickness stuff on this tree, and then we should be about ready to get the fire going. So here's our setup. We got our tinder, our moss, we got our starts of our kindling, really lead size, you know, then we got pencil size, a little bit bigger than pencil size. We got some thumb size pieces here, a little bit bigger than thumb size pieces there. And then we have some fairly big, substantial fuel pieces over here, which I collected off that big dead tree. So now we're going to set up the fire. So first we're going to build a little bit of a platform to prevent our kindling and our tinder from hitting the wet ground, giving it some extra fuel to feed down onto. And then we're just going to put a brace at the top. And then basically we're going to light our fire on top of that. And it's a lot better than just trying to light it on cold, damp ground, because that will suck the heat out of it. Will put the flame out. It requires a lot more heat when you have it on a damp, cold ground. It requires a lot more heat to get going than it does if you put it up here. You'll get better airflow, and the brace is there just so you don't smother your flame and smother your tinder. So we'll put the tinder here and get our bundles sorted out all around us so everything is at hand. Okay, so I got my moss and try to fluff it up a bit. Try to hit the old man's beard with the ferro rod. Put that back a bit. Try to turn it over on itself. Doesn't want to work for me. So trying with the moss, it is a little bit too damp. It's not flaming up easily enough because it's been raining recently. So even though I did find some dry-ish moss, you know, the flame couldn't establish. It would just flame up and then die out just because it just has little bit too much moisture in it. So we're gonna have to go find something else. I'm probably gonna go look for some cedar. So here's a nice cedar tree. I'm just gonna take my knife and kind of like scrape the back of it and get all of this fluffy stuff and make a bit of a nest. Okay, so I have some really fine fluff here that I scraped off with my knife, and then I just have some like coarser bark that was kind of falling off that I took, and I'm going to process that up by kind of just twisting it and breaking up all the fibers, making it a little bit easier, more flammable. So cedar doesn't like to stay lit. That's one thing about it, is that it likes to smolder. So you do have to create a bit of a nest when you're using it, and it often requires you to be very wary of the flame and continue to blow on it while it's trying to stay lit pretty much. Of course, it stops recording when I'm put you over here. A little bit tricky this time. So all my twigs are on. And because this is cedar, it likes to die, so you got to just keep blowing on it. Let's move you again. Put all your other fuel on. Give it air. Kind of put it on like a log cabin, I guess. Fire likes a little bit of chaos, so just put the wood on however you feel. So there you go. With a little bit of effort, managed to get the fire going. You know, cedar is quite finicky. You kind of have to blow on it like you would when you're building kind of like a bow drill. You got to make a nest, and you know it won't just light up on you with your ferro rod, and you won't just get flames like you would on like a feather stick or something. It requires you to kind of build a coal base, and then so that means you have to have enough cedar to be able to fuel that. And then once you get that coal base hot enough, you can put your little pencil lead sized twigs on there. And it's really important that you have that size, pencil lead sized twigs, when you're using western red cedar or any cedar like that, because if it's a little bit bigger, it won't catch, and then you'll just lose all of the tinder you prepped, and you'll cause yourself a lot of headache. So I hope this helped you with your kind of fire making skills without using an axe or a saw, and just kind of going around the forest and seeing what's available to you on a slightly damp day, because it rained all day yesterday, and the forest is damp, but it's quite nice today. So that's why things are slightly damp, slightly dry. It's kind of one of those weird areas where it feels like the fire should be easy, but sometimes it's not. Anyways, I hope you like this video. This is Dave from BC Bushcraft. I hope you guys have a great day.